This episode is brought to you by New Moon Wishing, a self-care guidebook for wishful thinkers. Please see the link in the show notes. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here again with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here again.
So nice to have you. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about lunar phases.
Yeah.
So these are moon phases, lunar phases, and we're just going to go through what the phases are.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about each one.
Yeah.
And we've got a few keywords to throw around.
That's great.
At this time.
Yeah.
So just to go through quickly, the actual, there's 8 lunar phases, and it's the only thing that's in 8s in astrology. So everything else is 12 of this, 12 of that, but phases have 8. So it always starts at the new moon. That's when the sun is conjunct the moon. So that is your first phase. So the first one is new moon, then crescent.
Yeah. Oh, let's really quickly mention that this lunar phases, that means the relationship between the sun and the moon.
Absolutely.
That might not be obvious to everybody.
Right. Good point.
These are the phases that the moon and the sun make in relation to each other as they go around the zodiac.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Every month.
So when we look up at the moon and you can say, oh, it's a full moon tonight, that's a phase.
Exactly.
And then sometimes you
new
look
moon
and
is clearly
see it.
visible. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the visible phases of the moon as relates to.
Yes, and of course we've known about these since the dawn of man and woman, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our 8 phases are new moon, crescent, first quarter, gibbous, full moon, disseminating. That's a word that's always in astrology crosswords. Last quarter and balsamic.
Yeah.
So of these 8 phases, what you have is, because you start at the beginning of the sun conjunct the moon, as the moon then moves away from the sun, it is growing in light.
Yep.
So that is the waxing half.
Yeah.
And then at the exact full moon, it then starts waning.
Which means getting smaller.
So the light is becoming less. Yeah. So things are waxing and things are waning.
Yeah.
And then the other way of breaking this up is to say that you've got the dark half of the cycle where you virtually can't see the moon, and then you have the bright half. You've got the dark and the light.
Yeah.
So these are all keywords that can be bandied about when we're talking about lunar phases.
For sure.
The light and the dark of the moon.
Yeah.
And on the blog post related to this, there is some images there that show these lights and darks and so on.
Yeah.
So in general, the moon takes about 29 and a half days to go around because it has to catch up. So from one new moon to the other, it's about that distance. I mean, we're not even going to pay much attention. So really, once a month you get a new moon generally, and once a month you'll get a full moon generally.
Yeah. One of the few things that non-astrologers know about astrology.
Yes, it's true. And so the moon's not the only one that phases. Mercury and Venus also will phase too, but we just can't see them. So, but just by the way about that, yeah. So how do you know what phase you have in your chart? So the best way is to turn the chart so that the sun is in the ascendant position, and then you can see where the actual moon falls. And there's a diagram again on the blog post that will tell you exactly where it is.
And for anyone listening to this, please go to the blog post. It is so helpful. I love this diagram. This is beautiful. This is just Alison thinking at its finest. I love it.
So we just had a question about somebody's chart who's what moon phase do they have, and because we knew that the sun was trining the moon on the top side of the chart, that we could say this was a disseminating moon.
Yeah.
And if it was trining on the bottom part, it would be first quarter. So there is a diagram there that just shows you the Ptolemaic aspects just to help clue you in.
Yeah.
But you should be able to look at a chart and say, oh, it's a new moon. Oh, it's a full moon. Oh, it's disseminating.
Right.
So there's the first challenge for everybody, to know what your moon phase is.
Yes. For sure.
Now, there's no orbs. There's no orbs with moon phase. You're either in a new moon or you're crescent. You cannot be both. So once the moon has got to be 45 degrees away from the sun, it's in the crescent phase.
Yes.
And once it's got to the 90 degrees, you are then in the first quarter. So there's no orbs or coming up towards the end. You're definitely one phase or another.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's great.
So do you know what phase you are, Arwynne?
I do, and this is perfect because it's the right at the beginning. I'm a new moon person. I've got my sun and moon conjunct, so
Yes.
I'm a new moon baby, I guess.
You're a new mooner, a new moon.
Yes, and apparently the keywords in the new moon personality are instinct, projection, spontaneity, and possibilities.
Right.
So, yeah, we view the life as a grand adventure. Apparently, we like to live in the moment, and that I can absolutely attest to.
Yes.
I do not like to plan ahead. The idea of like having a 5-year or a 10-year plan makes me sad.
Right.
Like, it freaks me out. I don't like to even contemplate that kind of thing.
Right.
When people talk about like, oh, the 25-year mortgage, oh God,
Yes.
horror.
Yes,
The worst.
yes.
Can't even handle it.
Yes. So I do have some new moon keywords, very similar to what you've got there. Instinct, subjective.
Yeah. Yep.
Starts projects, doesn't necessarily finish them.
Guilty.
Emergence and self-involved. So
yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah, but I'm also an only child, so that all checks out.
Yeah. So, so this is in the dark waxing phase, and the moon was pretty unseeable at that point.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to how we can actually take these phases and apply them to the plant cycle.
Yeah. That's super important, the planting cycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
So of these 8, we're talking about planting stuff in the garden, right?
Plants.
Yeah, plants actually. So when you're talking about the new moon and the growth cycle, we are talking about the cycle of the plants. Again, there's a diagram on the blog post. So the new moon phase, your keyword here is germination. Now, because this happens at new moon, germination happens when a little seed is buried in the soil, and today nothing's happening because it's balsamic, but tomorrow it germinates.
Yeah.
That's the new moon.
Yeah.
And it's the same for women conceiving. The egg's sitting there, waiting. Nothing's happening, and then suddenly, ta-da!
Mitosis.
The sperm comes by, and conception occurs at the new moon.
Alison, tell me how babies are born. Where did I come from?
Exactly. So the point is that you can't see it. You can't see germination. You can't see conception.
Yeah.
It's happening in the dark.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
It's like
it's the beginning.
I believe it was Patton Oswalt who said something like and he might not have been the first to say this, but like creative ideas are like mold. They're best born germinating in the dark, in the moist basement of the imagination.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
When you can't see it, next thing you know, oh, is that a plant? Right. Oh, am I pregnant?
Athena being born straight out of the head of Zeus, fully formed in armor.
Yeah, so this
I'll be so lucky.
So our new moon phase there relates to germination, and it's in line with the winter solstice on December the 21st, the darkest darkness of it all.
Yeah.
And then going back to the plant cycle again, the crescent phase, which is the next one. Now, this is the first leaf.
Yeah.
So this is where the little green shooters come up through the soil, and there's like a little leaf.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2 little leaves. And you look at it, and you don't know if it's an oak tree or a tomato plant.
Right.
You cannot tell.
Yeah.
But the first leaf is there.
And that's a very famous image in corporate symbology.
Well,
like
there's an emoji.
The inspirational poster, the one leaf bursting out of the soil.
Yes. Yeah. So that's your first leaf.
Yeah.
And this relates to embulk on February the 1st. And then we have the first quarter phase. Now, this is the point where the roots are taking root.
Yeah.
They are going down deep and giving structure and establishment to this, because it's the square now.
So all that stuff that's happening under the ground, the stuff that you can't see is, and it's interesting, like the roots are sometimes even bigger than the actual visible leaves. Yeah.
Yes, it's establishing roots and growth. So, and this piece relates to the vernal equinox on March 21st, because now we're going from the dark half to the light half of the cycle at this particular point.
Right.
Then we get the gibbous phase. Now this...
Do we want to talk about keywords?
We'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So maybe I'm going backwards here, but one thing at a time.
Okay.
So then the gibbous phase on the plant cycle, this is buds and blossom.
Oh.
So at this point, you get a blossom and you think, oh, that's going to be a red apple, because you can see it's a pink blossom. But this one's got a white blossom, so you know it's going to be a green apple.
Right.
Or whatever the heck you're growing, right?
Yeah.
You say, oh, that's a red rose, or this is a yellow rose. And you can see it from that.
Yeah.
The buds or the blossom, they're just a hint of things to come.
Potential.
Yes, because we're still growing here.
Yeah.
So this relates to bell time, May the 1st, when the sun's at 15 degrees Taurus, just by the way.
Right.
Then we get the full moon phase. Now, this is your flowers and fruit. The fruit's on the trees. You can see the flower. It's full. Everything's in full bloom. Nothing is hidden. So this relates then, of course, to the summer solstice around June 21st, and it's the beginning of summer. You can clearly see what's there. Next, we get to the disseminating phase. Now, this is the harvest. So what's happening here, that the culmination and all the fruits that were visible, your apples that were there, have now sweetened up, and you can now harvesting at this point.
Right.
So this relates to Lamas, which is, of course, that first bread, isn't it, of the year, when the first wheat comes in, and that's around 15 degrees Leo.
Right.
Then we get to the third quarter, which is the beginning of the decomposition.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is leaves are falling off.
Yeah.
The plant withers. Sometimes the roots go down to nothing, like a hosta, it just goes down to nothing. So it's known as the fall or the autumn equinox, relating to September the 21st, and it signals the end, the beginning of the end.
Beginning of the end. It's like that phase in the hero's journey where it's the darkest before the dawn. Like the hero's going through the underworld.
Yeah, where there's just
the crisis of faith.
dried, crispy things, and decomposition is happening all around you.
I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. Like,
yes.
Is Thor going to die? Like,
yes. Yeah. So at this point too, you can get seed pods popping, but nothing's going to grow as yet. And then we get to the final phase, which is the balsamic phase, and this is where things are resting and lying fallow.
Yeah.
So the seeds that were laying there are just lying on the ground. Nothing's growing.
Yeah.
Everything's just resting. And you'll see the farmers' fields are just resting.
Right.
And honestly, we should be just resting.
It's like the vineyards when I went to the Okanagan last April.
Yeah.
And it was just all these vines were just like in their balsamic phase, just waiting. It was like just a couple months before they began to like germinate, but it was all just these dried out, cut down to like only the essentials. All dried out and just dry.
A twig sitting there. You don't know.
Yeah, and you have no idea. And then my partner's sister said, just come back a couple months from now and it'll just be like amazing lush fields of nothing but grapes as far as I can see. It's hard to imagine in that phase.
And it's as though plants need to have this resting and lying fallow time. And as humans, we do too.
Yep.
You can't be going. So this tends to be your balsamic phase if you're in that, where you have to rest up as well.
Totally.
So this is where you've got seeds and maybe even pine cones lying on the ground, but they're not germinating because we haven't got to the new moon. Yeah. That'll be at the beginning of the cycle.
Yeah, they're just hibernating.
They're hibernating, yes. Maybe there's an animal cycle too.
Yeah.
So let's just have a look at some more keywords then for the main cycles that we're talking about. So we did the new moon.
Yep.
So then we have the crescent phase, which is the one I actually have just by the way.
Yeah.
So our keywords here, I've got forward-looking, self-belief, and eager confidence.
Oh, interesting. I've got activation, future orientation, and striving. And these people they're vulnerable emotionally, but they're optimistic and future oriented.
Yes, and I know that is me. I've always got something on the go. Yeah.
Interesting.
So this again is in the dark waxing phase. We're still in the dark half of the cycle in the crescent, but
and if we're talking about the hero's journey again, this is the beginning of that call to action. This is like Luke Skywalker training on the desert, and he's just getting ready, but he doesn't know how he'll be challenged yet, but he knows that he needs to do something to strengthen himself and get ready. Because that challenge is coming. It's not there yet.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
Then we get to the first quarter, and some keywords I have for this are forceful, because it is the square, growth and building, strong-willed, and a crisis in action.
Crisis in action, exactly. Yeah, I've got
that's because of the square. That's why the square.
Exactly. Yeah, and these people are. They're action-oriented. They're building a new path. This is the trailblazing hero. This is definitely that call to action.
Yeah.
In the hero's journey, and they're at their best when they're challenged.
Yeah. Just how good are you?
Right.
So now we're in the light waxing phase because we've moved into the light half of the cycle.
Yeah.
So that's
so it's like that first action sequence in the action movie.
Yes.
In the
you got it here. You got it.
Yeah.
Then we go to the gibbous phase, and my keywords I have is contribute, overcome, and perfection.
Yeah, perfection is a big one.
Yes.
And also analysis and investigation.
Yes.
So they make good investigators, and they want to augment and learn and amass more skills and maybe weaponry. And if we're talking about the hero metaphor here, this is the phase where they go underground and they maybe meet with the weapon builder, and they like, oh, okay,
Q or somebody.
Q, exactly, or Morpheus or whoever is going to teach them.
Whoa.
They get kicked and punched, and they're bruised and bloody, but it's all for like the purpose
building
of
up.
building up, for the
Building
big
up.
fight,
We're building
so
up.
they can actually meet the enemy.
My God, Arwynne, this is good. Yeah. Then we get into the waning phase. So the first one is the full moon phase. Now, some keywords I have for that is clarity, illumination, mature, and relationships.
I've also got relationships for sure. Perfection and completion, but not completion of the cycle, more about the completion of your consciousness. So this is when you reach another level. It's like achievement unlocked. This is where you reach a level where you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. Maybe I can do this. And you've got your weapons strapped on your back. Yeah. You've passed the first hurdle, and you're like, okay, I think I'm actually going to be a hero now. I think I can actually do this, and not just like retreat back onto
you can see
Andor or whatever.
You can see the fruits of what your project was.
Yeah.
Is it going somewhere? And you can see the good, the bad, and the ugly, but there's no illusions now.
Yeah, you know your weaknesses now, but you also have your allies. You know some of your strengths, and you know that you can actually build on those strengths.
Exactly. So this is a phase. These are phases that we go through life with as well, right?
Yeah.
Then we get to the disseminating phase. So the keywords I have is transmit information, knowledge dispersal, and convey awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got natural communicators. These are the philosophers and teachers of the zodiac. And this is interesting because, of course, as I mentioned in the, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but my partner is in this phase. And absolutely, he is 100% this. He's one of these people who knows a little bit about everything. He always has like, we always make fun of, like, he's like, I've got a guy. Like if someone says, oh, I need to move something, or I need to like figure this out, or I need to, oh, I've got a guy. And then like, sure enough, he's got like literally 20 times as many contacts in his phone as I have. And his phone is like from last year. Mine's like 10 years old.
Yes.
He always knows someone who knows something about something, and he can put you in touch with that person.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is he not the guy who set up the WhatsApp group for our building?
100%. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He knows the people in the building, and these are our residents we're talking about. So one day we're going to have a barbecue or God knows what. But the point is that he's the one who set it up.
Everyone knows him. For the first
everyone knows him.
First 5 years we lived here, I never saw anybody. I mean, I worked from home, but so did he. And yet he would go out and he'd meet all these people. Oh, do you know Katya and Dimitri? Do you know Eric and Mike? And I'm like, what? No. How do you?
No.
How would I know these people? It's like when the elevator or in the parking garage or outside at the coffee shop. And I'm like, what? Who are you?
I know.
But thank God. Thank God we're not the same, phase.
Well, this is it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
This is it. So
we all need a disseminating phase person on our team.
Well, clearly, and he's
Zombie
the guy.
Apocalypse skills, for sure.
He's the one who knows the guy who knows the guy.
Exactly.
This is the great thing. This is the disseminating.
Yeah.
Then we get to the last quarter phase. So my keywords I have here now are objective, crisis in consciousness, pioneer, and readjustment and reorientation.
For sure. I've also got a couple of keywords here that are a little bit less positive. I've got disillusionment. So this is maybe the phase where you realize like some of the allies that you had or some of the weapons that you had in your arsenal are not all that effective. Like maybe you went up against the big bad and you got slapped down and you're like, oh God, maybe the Hulk isn't the best ally to have because he just went ballistic and didn't actually have my back at all, but you become better because of this. This is the second crisis that happens.
Yes, when you realize, in life that maybe you're not going to be a ballerina, no matter how many times you go to ballet lessons, right?
Or, or that you come out with a different skill that maybe if not ballet, then maybe jazz, or maybe there's something else.
Yes.
It's that weakness, not weakness, but that paring away of possibilities.
Yes.
It's not necessarily a limitation. It's more like old systems and values that you had or possibilities that you thought you could take advantage of. You're paring them away because we can't all have all the possibilities open to us all our lives.
No.
At some point you have to go, get rid of the And there's always that scene in the movie where they're shedding the gear. It's like one of my favorite movies of all time, Aliens, when she goes back into the burning facility to get Newt in the bottom of the, sub-basement 3. I've seen this movie a lot of times, but that's the last quarter phase. She's stripping down. She's taking all the stuff off. Yeah. She's down to her tank top and just the machine gun, and she's like, I'm going in. I'm going
Enough
going back
of this.
after. Enough of this. Like, get away from her, that's the last quarter.
Yeah. The final fight, the final fighting.
Exactly. Preparing for the final fight.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we get onto the balsamic phase, and which is the last one, as we said. And so my keywords here is release, we're letting go, sacrifice and surrender, and closure.
Yeah. Totally.
So it's the end of a chapter.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you get divorced. It's okay, we're done. We've done the paperwork. It's been coming. It's been coming.
Yep.
You don't get divorced on a whim.
Right.
It takes a long time coming, and this is where you get to closure and you shut things down.
Yeah.
In a way, it's almost like acceptance as well, that so be it,
Yeah. Surrender.
Surrender to you give up.
Yeah.
Okay, world, you won. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a positive thing because it's incubation for the next phase.
Yes.
It's preparation for the next phase. So again, if you go back to my favorite movie of all time, Aliens, it's after the big battle. After she's like vanquished the foe, it's screeching off into space with its like things all flailing, and she's got Newt, and she's got like the half of Bishop, and she's packing them all into the actual literal incubation chamber, and they're like, okay, we're all damaged, we're all bleeding, we're all broken, but we're gonna seal it off, we're gonna go back home, we're gonna heal,
lick our wounds,
and come back fighting
and recover.
Stronger.
Yes,
exactly.
And it's interesting that this principle of phase is not just for the lunar phase. You see it in life.
Oh my gosh.
You go through phases.
Yeah.
And you can see it often with your progress lunar phase.
Yeah.
What phase are you in? You're in your progress lunar phase, whatever that is.
Right.
And that's how life is treating you at the moment. And
totally.
It's like, oh, great thing, we're going to have a baby. Everything's wonderful. And then the reality kicks in. And
you can't sleep for several months.
Yeah, and the bills keep coming.
Yeah, and you can't work.
Yeah, and
you're fighting with the husband or the wife.
Well, this is it. Yes. So
why did we do this? But it's all for the future.
You were hardwired to do it, right? So yeah. But the thing is that we live through phases, and we could the phase that you happen to be in. Well, what phase? It's like saying, what season are you in your life?
Right.
If you realise that you're in a particular phase. And here I am talking secondary progress because that's the one we can measure.
Yeah.
You would then say, well, when will this phase end? Because those phases last 2.5 years. So you could then...
It's like that David After Dentist meme, like, is this forever?
Yeah.
When will this be over?
When will this phase end? Yeah.
And that's when people come to astrologers, like, why is this happening to
Exactly.
me? When will it be over?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Arwynne, do you know what secondary progressed lunar phase you're in?
I only know because you just told me, and that is disseminating. I'm just going to reveal all our secrets.
We had to check.
I can't lie.
There's so much going on.
I can't lie. I do not know it off the top of my head, but you do. And yeah, I'm in the disseminating phase, which I'm pretty happy about. I think that's a good one.
It's you're out there, you know a man, you know a guy who knows a guy.
Giving advice, even if it's not needed or taken.
You're starting a little bit of a harvest going on there, bringing in what's worthy, what isn't, leaving the rest out there for the others. Yeah. Taking what you need, but need what you take kind of attitude. Is that that's how they say it?
100%.
So you're not taking more than you need, you're taking what you need, which is important.
Yeah.
So of all resources and that as well.
That is very true. Yeah. I feel that true.
Yeah.
And what about you?
So I'm currently I am in the gibbous phase.
Nice.
I'll be coming up to my full moon next year. So nice. I'm still working away and planning new things and putting things out there and trying to get things going.
Analyzing, interpreting.
And trying to get things moving forward on multiple fronts.
Well, if I look around here, I see. Let's just reveal like a little bit behind the curtain for our audience, shall we? I look around, I see calendars, I see notes, I see charts, I see graphs, I see reminders. it's wonderful. It's all happening. It's very gibbous.
In full colour, yeah.
Yeah.
It's this is just this room. If you go to my office,
I will never reveal what's happening in the home office.
Inner sanctum, yes.
Right.
So it's true. I'll tell you, this week I've started, because I really needed skyhooks and I didn't have any. So I've started putting my...
Wait, what? What is this?
They're called skyhooks. You just hang things there because there's a hook in the sky.
Oh, hilarious. Okay.
So I've now started taking my Post-it notes about my multiple projects, and I've now stuck them on our blinds. We've got these vertical blinds because I'm running out of space, and I'm working on these 7 things at once. And when I close the blinds, I can't see the notes. But then when I open the blinds, oh yes, I'm working on that thing and this ebook and that. Yeah.
Wow. I don't throw this around very lightly, but that is more Virgo than Virgo.
I know.
Wow.
I see it, and I see it myself. And,
that's amazing.
Yes, so I've recently started doing grid art journaling, where I draw little 5 centimetre squares, and I can get like 12 or 6 on a page, and do micro pen and ink drawings with wash.
That's amazing.
It's so Virgo.
It's so Virgo. I love it. I remember like a long time ago in our OG podcast, you said that one of the things that Virgo loves is little sets of things, miniature anything, little miniature versions of anything, little tiny things of watercolors or little tiny paint sets. Or like I immediately thought when you said that was like the little pillbox hat and glove sets that my grandmother used to wear. Great-grandmother, who was a Virgo, like uber Virgo. She was like a school teacher. She was like 4'10", and maybe even less. And she taught school, and it, like in the 60s, she wore like these little tiny little perfect sets of thing. And that's such a Virgo thing.
It really is. I'm finding, because I want to, the idea why I'm doing it is because I want to do daily art practice.
Yeah.
But when I'm faced with the blank page, I don't know where to
draw
start.
A little box. And I don't know why I never thought to do that. I mean, I love graphic novels. I love comic books. It's panels. It's just panels. And I mean, the ancient Egypt, like the hieroglyphic, it's all boxes. I love that. I started one, the one you saw, I just showed you, was the one of the, because I've decided, I think seascapes is my thing. Yeah.
Because we live at the coast, and I just like an abstract. It's easy because I'm not good with people or animals. I can't draw them. They always look weird. So I'm quite happy to do a little bit of abstract and...
Well, and I looked at those and I was like, oh my God, is that English Bay? And
yes.
You're like, yep. Yeah, I knew.
It's like the only painting I do because I just I'm trying to perfect it.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been any beach, but no, I knew that one. It's English Bay.
Yes, it's the way. I was down there on Saturday. I went down there.
Me too. I skated by it anyway.
I did. I would have noticed that. I was watching the guys running past. But anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys.
So... But the point is that because it's the small grid and it's only 5 centimetres square, I'm able to definitely get these out, and I'm not overwhelmed. And it's a way to do daily art practice, because as we will tease, we are coming up to Inktober, and we're going to be addressing that in a big way. Yeah. And I'll just let our listeners know that that's definitely coming.
It's coming. Yeah.
And we'll definitely get more information on that for you later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, listeners, so we have been speaking about lunar phases. We've explained about the 8 lunar phases. We've spoken about some keywords for each phase. Yeah. We've spoken about the plant cycle, the life cycle.
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey and how that phase is it's like steps, like a 12-step program. It's an 8-step program. Yeah. You go through these phases, and depending on what you're doing it in a certain phase, and I would urge you to look at your secondary progressive phase, because that's the phase you're in.
Yeah, and the great thing about the moon phase is that you can actually see it.
Yes.
There's a few things you can actually look up and be like, okay.
It's a full moon.
Yeah, it's a full moon.
And we're in the light. We can see clearly now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting side of astrology on many ways that you would say, well, what's your phase, what do they say, set phases to stun or something? I don't know what they say.
They do say that. They do.
Or what else would it be set to? I don't know.
Exactly. Well, there's kill and there's faith.
I see.
Stun.
Kill, yeah. Well, okay. Well, set your phases to stun. Yeah. So we have stunning phases.
Stunning phases, exactly.
Yeah. So if you'd like to email us, you can email us at starzology@gmail.com. And you can also, if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, at the very top of the show notes, there's a live link. You can click through and send us a text message with your questions or your comments. Do please leave your name so we know who has sent it. And we do our Q&As every now and again. Please do join our newsletter, which you can find at starzology.com/newsletter. And you can follow Arwynne
at mspink.net. That's MSPINK at .net. You can follow my blog, and I publish once a week.
Yes, and Arwynne's talking about all stuff that's super interesting.
Books and movies and my childhood.
Things we need to know.
It's fun
Things
stuff.
we need to know, out and about and in the city and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's all great stuff. So I want to thank everybody for listening, and thank you, Arwynne, for joining me here again today.
Thank you for inviting me. This has been great.
It's been so nice to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there, or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.